This presentation is going to be a 12,000 feet overview on the PMP, the importance of the estimations and the KPIs and metrics that we are planning to propose. And with your buy-in, we will be able to probably take it forward to my team. So that's the intention. And what's the purpose of this presentation basically? With multiple discussions with Jackie and Colin, we saw the direction in which they want to go. They want to have a standardized procedure throughout, and they wanted to have the estimates right, and they wanted to have the earned value management to be implemented properly. They wanted to have the CPI and SPI, cost performance index, and schedule performance index to be tracked. They wanted to have everything come under the program management office. And in that direction, we see that Colin has the Office 365 and moving everything to the cloud, having everything on a SharePoint. So now the focus is towards a centralized place, where we all have the data collected. For example, if you have a status report, status to be made changes, obviously you make the change in that, and your CPI and SPI will automatically tell you the status of your project. For example, red, green, or yellow, something like that. So based on the cost and the schedule. So that kind of vision that Colin has and Daniel has discussed with us too. And then Vita has emphasized, and Jackie has been asking us to have a standard procedure. I am sure we have a lot of things that are already in place here, and experts like you all have been doing great job. And again, Colin's view on Tampa is great team and very flexible team. So we really need to continue to have the same opinion with them, and they really want our team to be the pilot for making these kind of changes. So in that direction, we have created some KPIs, and I had sent it to Jackie's approval. So Jackie thought it would be wise to have that reviewed by all of you, so that we will be able to have the right direction for that. Number one. Number two, what are the next steps? The next steps are, I will be sitting with you all 1 hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours, whatever it is required. I will make sure that in these 4 days, I will finish all of them, and I will have a model by the time I leave. If I cannot do that, I will make sure that I will do it in India, but Yogesh will be here. So what are the divisions that we have? There are 2 or 3 divisions. One is the documentation process, standardization of templates and other things that Yogesh is working on. Number 2, the collection of metrics and collecting the KPIs to make sure that we have a standard procedure for Colin and his team for the total technology and product engineering, not only for the Tampa, because other teams were, there are a lot of confusions in other teams at New York. There is no standard procedure though. So he wanted our team to provide a particular solution which will have the cost performance index, schedule performance index, and earned value management to be properly calculated on a basis, and estimations to be done in a standard way. So these are the 2 parts to it. Number 1, the documentation. Number 2, the collection of metrics. Okay. I am sure all of you are doing the excellent estimations, and probably the expert judgment. And I see some of them are in work breakdown structure now.
Yes. So some of the projects we use work breakdown structure.
And I think some of them are using probably the use case too here.
Yes.
So we will try to find out if they are good, or I am going to propose a scientific solution. So this particular session is a purely practical session. So, and the other discussions also, they are not critical sessions. We will try to understand how best we can do and collect the metrics for our organization, so that we will be able to appraise the projects, number 1. Number 2, appraise people. So that is the focus of that. So we have to make sure that we have to appraise people, appraise the projects. Then we have to make sure that we provide the right estimates to our customers. So since we are working for other customers too, so we will be able to provide some customers. And whether we have a change management process in place, then how do we best make sure that those metrics also go into the same KPIs. At this point of time, we, at least for me, I know that there are some things that are there in clarity which we can do with some of the metrics, but I don't think change requests are not really captured there. I know there are some of them are captured, but the continuous estimation changes, and there is a communication gap with the team and other things. So I thought a standardized procedure will be helpful. The other thing that I really wanted to tell you is what's the importance of PMP. I am sure we have some resident experts in PMP. So with your help, we will have a standardized procedure and people to understand what's the best way and what are the best practices in PMP that we can implement. It's not that we have to implement exactly what is there and put it in our organization. No, whatever suits to our culture, whatever best fits according to your expert's judgment, we will be able to do that. Okay, this is the very brief introduction. Let's move on to the first slide. As I said, this is let us start with the PMP's little overview, very brief overview, and how it is related to the different processes. Okay, we have like multiple frameworks that we can see there, and then very briefly we go over all those things. Then finally we go to the estimation technique, the standard technique that I am planning to provide you, and the last one is the KPI. This is a brief about me. I was born 16 years back and in Hyderabad. So, so I did my mechanical engineering, and after that I have business administration in marketing and finance. And post that I joined a mechanical organization, a steel industry. I worked there for 3 to 4 years, 3.5 years. After that I shifted to Infosys, which is an IT organization. During that time, I got an opportunity to work in various technologies. My initial experience has been with mainframes. Afterwards, in 2000, I got the opportunity of working with Microsoft, American Express, and Infosys. First project for .NET. It's a pilot project for all the 3 companies. So I led that effort in 2000. And post that, I did multiple certifications like PMP, ITIL, Six Sigma Green Belt. Then I am Information Security Auditor, CISSP. And I am STM, which is like International Function Point User Group. This is an estimation specialist program. Then I have CFMI program, which is like version 1.2 ATM. My project was the first project in Infosys to be leveled at level 5. So that was. Then I did some LOMA, it's like insurance certification. I'm a competent Toastmaster and leader, and I was assistant governor in Arizona chapter during that time. Phoenix, Arizona. Besides this, I had some cases where I was part of the technology consumption management and re-engineering. This is about brief. I joined TAS around 1+ year back. Currently, I am taking care of all Tampa projects, Java, .NET, and mainframe projects. There are some links for Facebook, LinkedIn, and all. People are interested, probably they can, our people who are interested, they can go through multiple certifications that are provided by PMI. These are the standard certifications which people, if they are interested, they can go through. And mostly, I suggest PMP for most of the people who have 3,500 hour test, 3,500 of training hours. They can definitely go through this. 35 hours of project management education. In order to maintain PMP, we need 60 hours of continuous education over a 3-year time. So if we can do that, we can maintain the status. So I have been maintaining it for the past 10 years. So, and there is a smaller version of PMP, which is like CAPM, and where less number of hours are required for your project. This is again, all of you are already aware of. Project is any temporary effort, which is very temporary, but it's a unique. So what about the support projects and the operations? According to the PMP definition, they are not projects. Project has to have a start date and end date. It has to provide a unique value, and it has to be a temporary effort. So that's what they define. So it's a temporary and unique. So what we have in project. So now we understand that we have the knowledge, we have the skills, and we have all the tools and techniques that are suggested. Project management education is not something that provides you everything, but it just has a framework. So you have to understand the framework and fit in where you can, where all you can fit into the organization, where all you can have those practices in your organization. So it's a collection of best practices or processes, and we take from there and we implement for our organization. According to that, all of us are stakeholders. For example, I am working on a particular project. I am a stakeholder. So any person who has a positive or negative influence on a project, that person is a stakeholder. So most of the times people don't understand it right. People think that stakeholder is somebody who is 7,000 or 8,000 miles away. No. Any person who has influence on the project, he is a stakeholder. So that's the first lesson in the PMP. Most of the organizations, especially I am talking about the entrepreneur portfolio information control systems, which in shorter form we have a project dashboard. Okay, the project dashboard should have these 5 processes. These 5. So the project dashboard that Colin was asking us to update should, at a later point of time, will have these things. There is an initiating process, planning, executing, and control will be a continuous process. Wherever we have some things which are out of control, we'll try to have audits, reviews, checklists, and we will try to have all of them controlling it. So basically, the dashboard that Colin was asking every week to be updated, not only the status, but he wanted to see in which phase that is, in which process group that is, where we are at this particular point of time. So we need to have it aligned to this. This is again one of the important concepts in PMP, which is a functional organization. I am an engineering function, so I will do only engineering. I do not have anything, so I have a permanent home in this particular place. Similarly, project-sized organizations, let us take real estate. They are here today, and if they get a new project, they will move to another team. They do not have a permanent team. They always shift teams. They always leave the locations, leave the managers, leave the leader, and they are always shuffled. So strong project-sized organizations are where there is absolutely no home to a particular person at all. Whereas in the functional organization, I am in the research department, forever I am in the research department. I am in marketing function, forever I will be there. So a matrix organization is a blend of that, so which is most of the Indian organizations and most of the current organizations in this industry have the blend of both. I have, for example, I work for a quality department. Okay, let us assume that I work for a quality assurance department, and I cut across multiple functions. I am an auditor. I can cut across multiple groups. So those kind of organizations. Now most of the organizations prefer a matrix kind of organization. So that is the order of the day, and we always have most of the CEOs, CTOs looking at the matrix kind of organizations, though they understand that the functional organizations are most effective in a way that people will be extremely strong in their function. Okay. Currently, we are in the phase where we are forming. Okay, these are 4 important things for a team building: forming, storming, norming, and performing. Currently, we are forming the teams. I know the teams have been there for so many years. For example, Damu is here for the past 3+ years. So we are, but at this point of time, the current growth, we can understand that it's a forming phase. Though there are some overlaps between these phases, so we try to form the teams in a proper way. Storm, currently we have so many confusions, who is working on what, whether the transition happened or not, whether the discussions happened or not. In this, you have anything to say? Okay. So you suddenly, I thought you were saying something. So, okay. So basically, people travel together, people merge together, people will share the transition together. So the storming phase is extremely important. So if we have to relate ourselves with the PMP kind of structure, we are in that stage. We are in the forming plus storming phase. Once we finish the phases, whatever we have, we will be in the norming phase where everything will be normal and things will be stabilized. People will not look opportunities outside. People will have the resistance to change. People will try to be there in their projects, settled comfortably with the domain, with the knowledge. That's one. Then the last phase of that is the performing. I'm not saying that these people are not performing throughout these 3 phases. All the phases have some overlap, but you understand that currently we are in the storming phase. So that is where Jackie thought a kind of overlap. People coming over here and people going to India, having more interactions, more team luncheons, more ways of exchanging the communication will always help us in the storming phase. If we do not have a proper storming phase, we are going to fail. So that is what I think we are doing very right at this point of time, and thanks to everyone's efforts for all the inputs and other things. And I'm sure like we will definitely reach the norming phase very soon. So here, just try to understand that PMP is not a simple framework. Okay, we know that it's a framework, but it has relationship with almost every process area. Like we see that there are so many frameworks that are there. Every framework has something common with the PMP. PMP is not a theoretical course at all. If somebody takes it just for the course of theoretical knowledge, it's okay. But it is not good unless you implement it, unless you understand every area in that, it's not going to help you. These are multiple frameworks that are in directly relationship to the PMP. For example, CMMI. In CMMI, what we do? They grade the organizations based on your capability and your maturity. For example, you are maybe in the initial stage, probably you are in the defined phase. Then once you reach a particular stage, your organization will have standard templates. After that, you try to optimize organizations based on level 4 and level 5. I repeat now. Every organization is at CMM level 1 or level 2. What is level 1 and level 2? Level 1, there is absolutely no process. Level 2, we have processes, but specific to our group, specific to our project, specific to our department. Level 3 is the place where organization will supply with some of the templates, some of the documents, some of the best practices, and you all forward that. For example, the travel. If we take the travel, all of us reserve our travel tickets through BCD travel, correct? So it's a standard. So where all of us will take. So one process is in CMM level 3. Now, up to level 3, most of the organizations strive to be, and most of the organizations try to be. But what is level 4 and level 5? In level 4 and level 5, organizations try to optimize. For example, in level 4, they try to understand everything is stable, but still we have some specific causes of variation and common causes of variation. Some of them are minor human errors which are occurring regularly. Some of the processes are very specific. If you take out them, the organization will perform at the greatest possible level. So they are at the level 4 and the level 5. So once again I repeat, in the initial stage or in the level 2, the organization has their own set of standards, own set of rules. For example, I see that Trello board is used in Kirk's team, but we do not have that in West. I have not seen it at least. So similarly, we have clarity reports not used across, but we have some collection of data around that. So it's not, though it's implemented, but we are not using it. Level 3, we are forced to use all organization standards, which is where the Collins direction and Jackie's direction is. So at level 3, we need to have everything organized, whether it's India or USA or UK, wherever the product technology and product engineering department is there, we need to use the same set of documents, metrics, everything. That is the level 3. Level 4 and level 5 are specific to you because you understand that in your specific project there are some specific causes of variation you want to address. That is at the level 4, and at level 5 we have common causes of variation. In level 5, everything is perfect, we are running very fine. How do we optimize even more? How do we control the minute costs? How do we control the small defects that are there? Very minor. So we will try to optimize the process. Level 5 organizations are optimized, and they use the PMP knowledge extensively. So we encourage our people to do the PMP to a lot. As I said, it's not definitely for theory. People will understand a lot in it. Now Six Sigma. Six Sigma is where CMMI is focused for some of the projects, but Six Sigma cuts across the organization. For example, I am making a change. I have to make sure how other teams are being affected because of that. So I will have all the people sitting there. I say that these are the number of defects that I am going to control. This is the value add that I am going to get. This is the monetary saving that I have. So Six Sigma is a goal oriented. For example, I want to earn 1 million in 1 year. Okay, that's my goal. Then Six Sigma tries to understand what are the ways, what are the best ways. What is your current income? What are your abilities? And what are the gaps? How you can do that, whether you can steal a bank or not. So those kind of things they try to identify. And yes, if you have the ability to steal a bank, you can do it in a year. So something like that. They come up with a solution. So Six Sigma is purely a solution oriented. So that also has a lot of common things with PMP. Similarly, the Toastmaster, where it directly contributes to the communication part of it. Communication means not English, not the grammar, not the spelling mistakes, but communication means how effective you are interacting with your teams. That is where the Toastmaster comes. ITIL is not directly related to PMP, but ITIL is a support-based system, but there also you have a systematic way of handling. And for example, ServiceNow happened to be the most ITIL aligned tool, which we are going to migrate at a later point of time. So that's why, though we have the current ST ticket system, it's not really aligned to that. So Colin's vision was to make sure that it aligns with ITIL. So that's when I thought I will include ITIL also. All this I will have with you in a detailed discussion. This is, as I said, 12,000 overview, 13,000 overview. So ITIL. Then we have COBIT. COBIT is specifically for the IT governance, and it is exactly the same levels: initial, reputable, defined, measured, optimized. Exactly same as CMMI, which are again directly related to your PMP. Similarly, ISO. In ISO, we have like multiple standards. 9001 is for the companies like us, and 27001 is InfoSec folks. So in InfoSec, like we have like multiple areas. Okay. So basically, they look for the CIA, which is like confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and they make sure that the identification, authentication, and authorization happen in a proper way. So those are again systematic, and they are again directly related to the PM. So as I said, Prince2 is a British version of executing the project, but a lot of people do this also. In other words, PMP is not a theoretical course or anything. Theory is definitely good, but it is very difficult to remember. So we need to implement that to the projects. So what are the areas that are there in PMP, and what are the things that we are currently doing and we are not doing? Let us try to understand what we are doing. Let us leave the first one. I will talk to that. Talk to all of you on that again. Scope management. Are we doing it or not?
Yes, I think we are doing it in
almost every project we are trying to understand the scope of a particular project, right? So we are doing it. Okay. Time management. Time management is a misnomer. Actually, we have to call it as a schedule management. Or we have deadlines for all the projects that we have. Most of the projects, right? We have it. So we are using it. Cost management. Yes, time is directly related to the cost. We are tracking the cost too. Okay, it is there. Quality management. QA we do, but I am not sure about the checklists and standard things, but we are using it to some extent. So we need to focus more. Any questions, Bob, Brad, Krishna? I'm expecting some.
Say that again?
On quality management, I know like we have all the projects using the quality assurance. Okay, so just wanted to.
Well, actually, no.
Do we have a standard methodology to do everything? Plus the automation. That's what I am coming to.
Well, no, we don't have automation, but we certainly seek to test as much as we can. And because we have a lot of different types of projects, there are certain groups that don't use us, so we would like
that is a serious concern actually. If groups don't use QA, then it's a concern.
Well, they do it differently.
Yeah.
So we look at QA here. I think if you were to ask people, they really look at it as testing. And so testing is certainly part of it, but it goes beyond that to make sure that the product you get out there is a quality product, and what kind of defects get caught in each of the different phases, and doing root cause analysis to prevent them in the future type of thing.
Okay.
So it's more than just testing, and I think our testing processes aren't standardized across the board. So some teams will do their own, some teams insist that the developer can't do the testing to get it into production. Many teams use SaaS, but not all the teams are using SaaS. So it's not a standardized documented process and flow. You're going to get different answers from different people if you talk about quality management.
We also do code reviews, regression testing, it's all related to quality.
Yeah.
post-implementation review, everything
Yeah,
that SaaS tests, we test again after it's been implemented
Okay.
to make sure that it's working as expected in production, the same as it worked in. Yeah,
Brad?
I'm just pointing it out.
Second, Brad, any?
I mean, I think the defect tracking is an interesting one, because I don't think we're that's something, it's an opportunity for us to really look at, the defect tracking and root cause analysis, because I don't think we're doing that across the organization.
Any other?
Yeah, I think as Brad mentioned, we don't have any standard defect tracking tool where we have all the defects for analysis.
But why we don't have any tool? Because we have Jira standard across the organization.
No.
Are we using Jira? We have licenses actually, I'm sure.
No.
Are you sure? You're not.
We're not using Jira.
We're not using
New
Jira.
York has, I think.
No, we have it, I'm 100% sure.
Well,
They're using it for the customer service portal project, but
Oh,
it's still
okay.
being driven by New York. So we're not,
No, we have
There's no
licenses.
single
Actually, Colin was
Jira
talking,
here.
no, Erin was actually talking about using a Jira for Android. Okay. So we will, I think this is the area where we focus in on. And human resource management is a wide subject where we have, employees onboarding, training, retention. So I think I have a lot of action on my end. So it's one of the toughest things that we have. As I said earlier, we are currently in the stage of farming, so storming. So definitely we need to reach the norming and performing phase. Considering the current globalization, a lot of things are happening at so short duration. We really need to be focused and more systematic and more planned. That is what we definitely need to find out a better way. Communication management is again, what kind of channels that we have, and there is a systematic way to do it. Other than clarity, do we have any other, way to interact? For example, project dashboard. I'll talk about one tool that I really liked. There is a tool that was used in American Express. It was a very best practice. As soon as you reach a particular number of hours, you automatically get an alert saying that, okay, you are exceeding the hour. Similarly, if you have 3 or 4 bucks extra, okay, you are exceeding the company standard number of bucks. That doesn't mean we have to make some standard bugs, but there is a standard even for bugs too. For example, we have different types of projects, development, maintenance, and support. Every project there is industry standard for the number of bugs, so we can say that okay, this is industry standard and this is our org standards. For example, industry standard you can make up to 5 mistakes, but in company standard you can make only 3. so as soon as you exceed that, probably you will get a notification, something like that. Similarly, if you miss a status report, you immediately get an alert. Something like that, mostly automated. So those kind of tools are available, and Colin was, thinking SharePoint is probably one place where we have all these things. So we have to identify whether we get the notifications from there or not. So I think the SharePoint has some notification things too, because it's one of the very good collaboration tool that Colin currently is using. Risk management. How much we are? Any specific inputs?
Well, it would really be different for different things. So our really small projects don't really have a lot of risk generally. I mean, there's always a caveat to that. But if you don't have enough people and you don't have enough time or there's enough money, you have a risk there, and it's important to communicate that, what you're really looking at. Are you at a high risk for missing your deadline, a high risk for missing your cost, and or the quality? What can you really deliver on a certain point? So it's all these things are really interrelated. So the risk is and then who you communicate to really is very very much interrelated. So you have a risk for your cost, your schedule, your quality, and the features that you can actually deliver with that cost and that schedule. So it's important to identify those, mitigate them, say how probable is this to really happen, and if it does happen, is it worthy to put a risk management plan together to say if this does, then we really have to do something and have a plan B prepared for it. But
I'm more worried about recent project like Amazon payments project or CSP project that is going to come. Just wanted to understand if we have any risk identification, risk mitigation plans or qualitative, quantitative kind of assessment where if we identify some risks and we can assess those risks and we include that to the estimation, the time and scope. So that is where this risk management will come handy when we do the schedule management. It will be really good if we can identify some of. It need not be a big effort or anything. Just identifying the basic risks in a proper template, which again goes back to the dashboard. As I said, dashboard should have the cost, scope, schedule, quality risks that are identified. So the status report dashboard is extremely good. It's one single document where you have all the things that are identified there, the risks, the time which is, whether we are going to reach the schedule or not, something like that. Based on those, we also can have the cost performance index and the schedule performance index, which are called CPI. So the earned value management is very easy if we do the risk management, and we include that in our schedule. So that's what we will try to identify something that procurement management for the time being. Stakeholder management is anyway that we have been doing it. Now all these things combined, the project integration management, where we have the effort to include all these things in one shot. For example, the status dashboard is one place where we have everything, and using the Office 365, using the SharePoint, all those things will come into handy. For example, if I enter my hours, if I enter my defects, it's an integrated one. In India, some of the companies use integrated project management tool. For example, as soon as a particular project starts, they will get a project code, and Damu is assigned to that. As soon as Damu is assigned to that, he will charge his hours in the Clarity kind of system. It will automatically go and update the dashboard. And if he exceeds the, before exceeding the hours, he will get a red notification. So those kind of things. It's an integrated tool. So that is where I am not sure whether currently we are going to have it, but yeah, please.
I was just going to mention, we've got some of that in Clarity right now.
Correct.
Right,
Correct.
so-
I need, yeah.
So we're getting notifications out to the project manager if we're with, as we're approaching our delivery dates and if we pass them and the estimates and all that. So at least we are tracking
We have,
some of
yes.
that.
Yes.
And also, I think, sorry to interrupt,
No.
there was one more tool I think Dan and I discussed that was in use earlier, which is not being used now. For all major projects, kind of dashboard where we go, it shows.
The wall
You're talking about the wall board.
Wall board,
The wall
yes,
board, yeah.
yes.
That was reporting that came out of the Clarity
Yeah.
system.
And then, yeah, that was all clarity based as far as the data coming through it. It was a way to describe that.
Is the data also goes to the Trello?
No, there was no integration with Clarity or Trello.
Because we have some tools, probably we can do the fine tuning and we can have. Because considering a lot of people added to Indian team, and most of them are young, and it makes the system even more complex. So it's better to have a planned approach to address the issues. That's what I personally, I'm sure like all of you believe that. Because it's a very young team. Please understand, my team is very young. I am 16-year-old, so you can understand my team.
So these people you're working with are 8? Is that what it is?
So I really appreciate you understanding these issues. And I am not going to take you through all these areas. This is for people. If anybody is interested, I can train them. But I'm not sure it's part of the current scope. But the discussions with with all of you one-on-one, I'll try to find out the best way to identify the missed pieces, and I will talk more about estimation in next 10 minutes. So, any questions? Okay, just summary. So far, we have covered the project management. Why we have to use this approach, because it's a standard approach. It has been providing inputs to multiple frameworks. Number one. Number two, we have some areas which are slightly broken here. With your experts' judgment, I will be able to. We will be able to come up with a solution that is standard. And once we start doing it, I am sure like people in New York and other people also forced to do that. So probably that's something So far we have been rock stars, and we continue to be rock stars from Tampa. So that's what Jackie's goal is, and my goal too. So that is. I am not going to talk about all these things, but go with the functional function point analysis. The easiest way to do any estimates. I am sure all of you are doing the best judgment estimates. With your experience, they are the right. They definitely fit the organization. But what about the 16 minus years of experience at my team? So we need to find out the best way to have a standard estimation approach. Okay, I'll just try to explain these three approaches that we can do for the estimation. Work breakdown structure. What we do, we have one particular major task. We try to break it down. Then we try to break it down. Then we try to break it down, break it down, break it down continuously till it cannot be further broken down. Now, starting from the bottom, try to assign number of hours to the lowest task, roll it up, and you will get the number of hours. This is one of the easiest and best approach. I am not talking about the expert judgment at all. With expert judgment, you are 100% right because you have been doing with the system, so you are right. But we need to have a standard template where even if your expert judgment is slightly more or less than the standard approach, we'll use the standard approach. Any questions on the work breakdown structure?
And we're using that.
For some of the projects, Damo said he used it.
For the
Yes.
large
Some of
ones.
them, yeah.
And the catch is, right, you really need a good requirement. I mean, you can break down only as good as the requirement is, and the requirements are changing very often. You know, for web pages, we'll get a web page done, and then they say, oh, I see what you did, but that's not really what I want now that I asked you for. And so you can't break anything down very well and estimate very well if it's constantly changing. So an awful lot of this is almost waterfall.
Yeah.
And so, you know, Agile is really kind of a different beast with it, but with the speed that we're going with, we need some agility that's intermixed with waterfall.
Very great limitation that he talked about work breakdown structure. I am going to address that. Any other concerns? Just- Okay. That's correct. The second one, use case. How many times we are using the use case approach? Use case approach is, say, I don't give the requirements to you, but I tell you, this is my use case. Use case means because this is what I am going to see. For example, I need a login page with these kind of details. That is called a use case. Okay, it's again one of the very, very, very standard approach, and this mostly is suitable for VB Java kind of UI based. Then how do we estimate that? It's again very simple. Count the number of transactions in each page, and you will get that page. There is a standard formula. Say if the transactions are 4, then we have something called a weight of 5, something like that. We calculate the weights, which is a standard approach. I will show you that. But just wanted to tell you that it's a very easy to count the use case transactions. Use case is a case which we normally get from stakeholders or users saying that this is how my page looks, and the next page looks like this. In other words, if we have the mock-up screens, that's what. So the problem that Bob talked about will be slightly addressed here. Am I right? Because you got a totally different approach and you have some different approach earlier. So this is how the web page should look like, and now this is how it's looking at. So we can address the difference between that, and we add that these are the number of use case points that are changed. It's called use case points, UCP. So the use case points will change. Not the hours, but I will tell you how to convert the hours from the points. So that is how we use. It's a very simple approach, a scientific approach. And to be very frank, if we have a simple Excel, count all the transactions, give it to a junior most resource, and ask that person to do it. I was doing that whenever we gave presentations. I used to give it to my junior most resource. Okay, identify all the transactions and give me. Once that person identifies all the transactions, I enter the number and give it to. So it's like 5 minutes. Once you identify the number of transactions, it's 5 minutes. So these two approaches are good if you have the requirements either through use cases or in a waterfall model. These two are extremely good, which we have been using it. We will continue to use that wherever possible. But the best method that I am going to suggest is the function points approach. This is there is a group that is International Function Points user group. Okay, all these groups are formed for actually for multiple reasons. There is a joke I think people talk about. There is a monkey. Some person goes to, I think probably you must have heard that. Somebody goes to a particular store, Walmart or someplace, and he sees a monkey there. So monkey $7,000, and he doesn't understand what happens. A monkey $7,000? Yes, it does coding in COBOL. How? Really? So he will take that home and he will try to do that. And then he will understand that it is coding excellent, better than a human being. Next day he goes there and he will see that another monkey, 10,000. So he'll ask, what does it do? Right? It does Java coding. Oh, really? So he'll take that next. So again, other day he will come and he will say one monkey for 15,000. He will say, what does this do? That person says, oh, this is latest all Ajax and web-based technologies and cloud, big data. Oh, really? And it really works. The last day he will go to the Walmart and he will see that another monkey, $50,000. He'll say, what does this do? The store person thinks for a while. I have never seen it working, but other teams call it project leader or project manager. So this is though it's a joke, it really pained me a lot because I know how much effort project leaders and project managers do and how much responsibility they have. So I was kind of little upset, and I think immediately after I born, the PMP was into what do you call the implementation, and most of the people started using it. So this function point estimates cover everything. What is a function point? Okay, I have a question. How much a 2-bedroom apartment condo costs me?
$1,500.
Any other answers? Don't. Okay, the requirements are not clear actually.
You need location, square footage, granite, how many bathrooms, how many bedrooms,
Correct?
right?
That is what. So normally what happens is, that is where we try to understand like there are multiple things that we need to factor into. So that is where this function point estimation is good at. It is good for the mainframe systems a lot, other systems as well. For example, what we do in this particular system. Throughout the world, the application development, maintenance and support depends upon two things. The data and the logic. Simple, right? So it divides everything into data functions and the transaction functions. It will count them, that's it. For example, if the data is within our system or it's with the outside system. For example, I need to transfer my money from Chase Bank to BofA, Bank of America. So now it is external to my system, right? So we identify two things, like whether the system is with me or with others. That is the first thing that we do in the function point estimation. The second thing that we do is what kind of transactions that it is processing. For example, if we are updating it, it will be complex. How many fields it's updating? Even more complex. If it is updating only one field, then it is a simple. If it is updating 10 fields, maybe medium. If it is updating 20 fields, it's complex. Okay, my data is not updating anything. It's a simple inquiry. It's not modifying anything. So maybe customer ID, and we try to understand, what are his transactions. Then it's a simple inquiry. Then sometimes reports outside, external output. So now we understand that data is either within us and outside. So there are only two groups in data. Transactions we have very simple, either updating or inquiry or report. That's it, we are done with the function point analysis. Now we count all of them and put it in the table, and we have some formula that can be applied. This is useful for the maintenance project and a support project. Sorry, a development project. It's a very, very, very simple approach. It takes care of all the change management. Whenever there is a change requirement, you just count how many internal transactions and external transactions, whether the database is changed or not. You can arrive at the estimates within half an hour to 1 hour. A simple XLS, which I can share with you all. A simple XLS. So what I do is I will sit with you all. As I said, this is a purely practical session. We sit with you all. You give me, take one small example, you estimate it. I will sit with you, and what we can do is with this, we will see the difference. What is the delta? We try to identify, and we try to make sure that it suits our organization. To summarize what we have discussed, initially we discussed with the PMP how it is important and how it communicates with the various processes of our organization and any other organization, number one. Number two, we discussed about the estimates. These estimates are extremely useful, and we have like best three methods other than the expert judgment. These are the three standard approaches that everybody uses in the world. And we thought that the work breakdown structure is extremely good if you know the requirements and you can break it down to the lowest possible levels. And we understand in the use case is a simple case which is like mainly for the UI kind of projects where you have the use cases, where you understand the number of transactions, count the transactions, put, and there is a formula, you enter it. Very simple. The final one is the most scientific and almost, if you provide these estimates to any person and say that these are like internationally, for example, if I do the estimates on my own with the function points, I get say 100, and Damu should also get 100 if he uses the same method. So it's a standard across the organizations. It may differ with your expert judgment, but it is standard if you do it across the board. So when we have a standard procedure to do it, why don't we make use of it? I understand there may be a difference of opinions, but once we having detailed discussions, we can definitely arrive at. I will sit with you and I will take some of the examples and we will work on it. And we will make the best standard approach for all the things. So what we do here is in function points, we try to understand the functions, not the actual estimates. We identify the functions. Now, once we obtain the functions, if it is Java, we multiply with some factor. If it is COBOL, we multiply with a factor and we will get the number of hours. I repeat, I have 100 function points. By counting them, counting the data functions, counting the transaction functions, I have 100 function points. If I have to do that in COBOL, I multiply it with 108. If it is in Java, I multiply it with 11. That they are my efforts.
But Srini, doesn't that assume that all things are created equal? You have some transactions that are just standalone transactions and some transactions that have extra agenda items that actually call transactions behind them. So whenever you have a standard, you have to be very careful that you're not
Missing out on any.
Yes.
You should not miss. There are two things that we have to be extremely careful with that. Number one, we shouldn't miss out on any transactions. Number two, identify the complexity of the transactions. For example, a transaction can be very simple as updating a simple one field, and there may be a transaction which updates like 100 fields. A transaction which updates like 2 tables, or a transaction that updates like 10 tables.
Okay.
So in that way, we have this particular approach has a detailed way of identifying the complexity and providing the function points.
Okay, well, another thing to think about though is that we have transactions that, say, an order transaction, that could be as simple as updating 5 fields or as complicated as updating 60 fields.
Correct.
It is the same transaction.
Correct.
So when you're estimating, you haven't really delved into the product that much sometimes to really see, because the goal is to get the best estimate.
Correct.
Always, so I guess it causes me a little bit of pause to want to do something standard. I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't good uses for standardized practices, because I think that there are, but one thing we have to be very careful is we're judged on how accurate our estimates are. So if we constantly either over or underestimate, then we face, some,
Yes.
slack.
I have an answer for that. Definite and very clear answer. Function point provides a particular solution to this. For example, if I do not know any application to the ultimate detail, for example, I have a transaction, either it may update 5 fields or it may update 60 fields. Correct? There is a transaction which is uncertain and we are also not sure because we did not dig much in that one. So in that case, we have a complexity of average that is suggested by the function point approach. That's it. So simple, average, complex. What we do is like we take the average number of function points for those kind of where there is a lot of uncertainty. So in that way, what happens? It will give you the approximate. I mean, it will give you as close as possible. but definitely better than the expert judgment. Even the experts also cannot judge, unless they know about how many fields a transaction is going to update. Correct? So even with that, whatever the issue that you suggested, that is there with almost all the, whether it's the expert judgment or work breakdown structure or use case, the issue is there with everything. But at least a function point has a solution of addressing that to an average complexity. So it has the solution, that's what I'm saying. For example, 20 function points translating to 200 hours in COBOL, 100 hours in Java. How do we arrive at? What is that factor? That is given, again, there is a table called Capper-Jones, which is like across the world, it is standard. So it has like close to 200 technologies where you can apply, simply apply the function points multiplied by the factor and you will get the number of hours. So it's already there, But if we want, we can fine tune it based on our argived standards, if we want. But we can use the existing standard as well.
I'm not absorbing all this.
Yeah, this is, no. As I said, I'm not going to the theoretical these things. All I give you a simple XLS with all the things. Just all you need to do is identify the transactions, enter the number of things. That's it. Number of fields in a particular, those kind of things. Yes. For example, you can see. For example, if it is an external input, okay, it's ranked low and it has 3 function points, something like that. If we have its external output, then 4. These are the elements that we can count. External inquiry, 3. How many fields are getting updated? 3. And considering our kind of system where we have the visibility into the overall system, we will be able to easily do it. As I said, it shouldn't take more than half an hour after you consolidate, what are the transactions and what are the tables that you know. If you know the tables, if you know how many fields in those tables and how many fields are impacted, you got the values. And we can compare that with the expert judgment too. I am not saying that we can do that, but since it's a standard procedure, and we can probably make best use of it. And it also takes care of some of the uncertain factors that we talked about. This is only for training purposes that I have. This I am not. That's why yeah. These are some of the things that are. There are like 14 general system characteristics which modify our estimates based on the communication. For example, I am here and somebody is working from India. The communication link also may be not working properly. So those kind of probably some configuration is more, some transactions are more, some online data entry. So like we have like multiple users. For example, end user. That guy is, if I give it to Damu, he'll work slow. If I give it to Jim, no, not really. But if I give it to maybe Jim, he so that also I can factor in if I want. If I want, I can. As I said, it's an extremely detailed approach where you can count. You tell me one factor, I will show you it here. Any factor that you talk about, I am sure like it is here.
Does it take into account multiple groups?
Yes.
Sometimes we
Yes.
have.
The communication distribution and the distribution data processing.
So that would be like
Yes.
if we have 40 stakeholders.
Correct.
And they're all affected, they all have to provide hours. I mean, that's taking into account the complexity.
They have to provide their hours. No.
It needs to be
No.
individually
Individually calculated.
and
No, it
consolidate
doesn't
and
have.
add
We
the
have to consolidate. For example, you 3 are in different groups,
Right.
and he has to provide his estimates. You have to provide your estimates. Jackie has to provide her estimates, and we combine. It doesn't address discrete.
Which we do today, and we have the hours, but
Right.
we'll be using this.
And again, my assumption is this is only purely part in the view of development. The communication
maintenance.
between different groups are in addition to this one.
Right.
Well, the more groups involved, it typically extends the hours. So.
Yeah, if more groups are involved, more groups need to come up with their own estimates, and we add some buffer and we provide the estimates. So like that, then finally once we have the unadjusted function points multiplied by the variable factors that we talked about, the uncertain characteristics, we will have the overall function points. And this function point multiplied by the technology, Java, say 10, and COBOL, say 100. So those many hours we have. It's a rough and it's not accurate.
So I guess I'm not really seeing, once you go through all of the UAF and all of the VAF, I'm not really seeing the because I think we all do that anyway. We just don't do it in a particular form. I think we just, when I look at an estimate, it might take me a little bit longer, but I'm taking in all those factors also.
Correct. Through expert judgment.
Yeah,
Right.
Again, expert
Right.
judgment.
Right, and I guess I'm wondering that, if the person doesn't have expert judgment and we expect them to use this instead of expert judgment, how will they know all the UAFs and VAFs to factor in if they don't have the knowledge?
Correct. That is the reason people need to dig out more. For example, as I said, how many tables are there, how many transactions are there, how many fields are there in each and every table, they have to consider.
But that takes time.
That doesn't take time, you just understand the tables. For example, if I have, let's say, 10, yes, that definitely takes some time to understand some of the tables and fields.
For example, so you
For
can-
experts, it will be easy. For example, if you do the function point estimation using your judgment, you know that there are 5 tables impacted, and these 5 tables are my internal tables, and there are 2 tables which are external to me.
Right, but we're talking about people who are not experienced, right? So.
For them also, it is useful.
Okay, so I guess my point is that you get an estimate and you see the requirements that somebody wants. So somebody wants A, B, C, and D. They
Correct.
want the results because when they send us the estimate, they send us what they want to happen.
Correct.
So we look at that and say, okay, they want a customer's credit card to be updated and for them to go into continuous service.
Correct.
So, and it's basically an unexperienced person would have to research
Yes,
all of
Yes.
the things,
that is correct.
which we encourage people to do anyway, to be
Correct.
sure, even if they're experts.
Correct.
We ask them to research all the things. And so I guess I'm kind of, your quote of half an hour was, well,
The final stage. As
The
I said,
final
once
stage.
you have all the details, you just put it in the form and you will get the results in half an
Perfect.
hour.
Half an hour is once you have the function.
Function.
You do all the
Calculation.
analysis and you get
Oh.
what all the fields are affected.
Okay, so when we make, because typically, we have 2 levels of estimation. We have the IE, which is the initial estimate, which needs to be done
And we
by
have the
Smith
detailed
Morris.
estimation.
And then we have the detailed estimate, where depending on the complexity of the project, we can take between, 10 and 100 hours
Correct.
to estimate.
Correct.
So you're talking strictly about doing this at a detailed estimate level, because you cannot do it at an IE level.
Initial estimates you can do having an average. It is a standard that is suggested by them. For example, a lot of times.
Average based on what?
Yeah, I'll tell you. Average complexity. For example, what happens in service-based companies, in this kind of organizations, it is really simple because most of you are experts and you understand the system very well. So you can directly understand how many tables and how many transactions, and you will be able to enter into the formula and you see whether you got the right estimates or not. However, for service-based companies, they do not understand your systems. They do not understand your, for example, you offshore this work to say a different group, they never understand your system. And you are not willing to provide them with the system. For example, let us understand that you are kind of busy with your work, you don't provide them all the data. In those cases, I'm talking about the service providers in India, what they do is they take the average complexity for most of the transactions and they estimate it on that. And then of course, they add some 3 or 4 buffers, which I can tell you when we talk about, like there are 3 or 4 additional buffers that they have, like the contingency, the project management, so those kind of things, and the unknown factors. So they add 3 buffers to that and give you. So people who do not know your system also can provide, number 1, with some buffers. People who know the system, they can make best use of this particular system. Because now I'll tell you what happens. For example, you give some estimates to Damu, and Damu probably is not comfortable with the estimates, and he overruns them, and he will add those hours into the support system. This is some of the cases where I have seen. I'm not saying that it is wrong or anything, but again, sometimes you are pressed for estimates. You give 100 estimates and only 80 estimates are approved, that is fine. But in case if you give 100 estimates and they take 150 estimates, there is a problem.